nervous and really excited at the same time. And at any point, if you feel that I should increase the speed or decrease the speed, please let me know. And thanks for the opportunity, Jigar, to let me speak and share my knowledge with all you guys. So
You have approached us for past 2 months, if I'm not wrong. Even before
yes,
before me, you had approached Shashank or Vaibhav, if
yes,
I'm not wrong. Yeah,
Shashank.
yeah, yeah. Welcome. Yeah, obviously we encourage people to give session. So yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the first time. Even my first session was during for this Laravel Mumbai meet only. So yeah,
Okay.
welcome
Yeah.
Pushpa.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity, Jigar. So today we will be mostly talking about the serverless and how we can deploy the Laravel on serverless technologies. So what my main agenda of talk is that at the end of talk, you should be able to understand what is the serverless. You should have the high level overview of the serverless. So today we will be discussing about what is serverless, what are the advantages of serverless over traditional approach, and the third thing, we are discussing that how to host the PHP on the serverless, and we will be seeing one demo for that demo application. We will be seeing and try to deploy on the serverless platform. And after that, we will be discussing the different use cases for the serverless architecture. And at the end, there will be one giveaway from me, guys. And stay tuned for it. We will be giving a one course for free.
Yes, I'm going to grab that definitely.
Yes. So yeah, I will just take 1 minute to introduce myself. My name is Pushpak Chhajed. I'm currently undergraduation student at Mumbai University. For last 3 years, I've been working with developing the web application, mostly in Laravel, Vue.js, and uh, I I'm mostly working with the AWS. So I'm very fascinating by the term cloud technologies. I'm sure that many of you, like most of you, have heard the term cloud technologies. It's very fancy term right now, right? And you can find me on the internet by the username pushpak1300. And if you wanted to know more about me or wanted to know the projects which I'm currently working on, you can visit the pushpak1300.me and get to know more about me. Okay, that's about me. So we will start with the topic. So what is serverless? Before starting out, if possible, please let me know if you have heard the term serverless before.
I have.
Okay. What about Darshan, Rahul, Ankit, and Vismay? Have you heard about the term? Okay, Ankit has sent me up. And
Yes, Pushpak. I also have heard about this.
okay, that's actually nice to hear. And have you guys tried deploying the application using serverless technologies?
Nope.
No.
Okay, Rahul has tried that. So congratulations, Rahul. So maybe today I can teach you something about the serverless and how we can deploy the application using serverless technology, specifically the Laravel application. So yeah, so like what is the first thing we can think of after hearing the term serverless is that there won't be any server, right? But that's not the case. There will be a server, but we won't be managing those servers. Those servers will be managing behalf of uh, the our on our behalf. They will be managing by the cloud providers. So serverless is like a change in how we actually create and run applications and online. So it is a change. It's a change in paradigm, or we can say that change in technology by the way which we can run or create application online. Today, actually, when we try to deploy application online, the first thing we actually discuss is that what resources like memory, RAM, or disk space will require to host the application on traditional servers, right? But if you are using serverless, you don't have to worry about the resources. You only focus on the services. You focus on the services, which is your code. You don't have to worry about the RAM it will be using, or the nginx config is it will be using, or any PHP specific uh, plugin it will be using. You don't have to worry about that. It will be all handled by the serverless platform. So there are many example of the serverless as a service. So there is a database as a service, storage as a service, queue as a service, search as a service, and function as a service. So I think most of you have heard about the Firebase database or Amazon DynamoDB, and most of you have also used that. So it is nothing but a example of the database as a service, which is based on the serverless technology. So when you actually work with the Firebase database or Amazon DynamoDB, you don't have to worry about the servers. It automatically scales up according to your need, right? So about the example for the storage as a service is Amazon S3. So if you have ever used Amazon S3, again, it is based on the serverless technologies. You don't have to worry about the server it's using or the disk space you don't need to specify the disk space it required to store the data. It automatically scales up. You just need to put the data on the S3. And there is queue as a service. You can take example of Amazon SQS, which is simple queue service. And if you have used Laravel Scout with Algolia, you must have used the search as a service, which is called Algolia. Algolia handles the search engine for us, and we actually don't have to manage or scale those search engine ourselves, right? And the main point of all those services is a function as service, which we'll be mostly talking today. So before talking about the function as a service, we will be first discussing what are the advantages of serverless. So why there was a need of developing new technologies over traditional approach? Because traditional approach is also good, but serverless is solving few problems which traditional approach has. The problem it are solving are, first, you don't have to manage the servers, because every time you deploy the application on a traditional platform, you first have to install the PHP version it required. Second, you have to install the Nginx version or Nginx, and you have to configure that properly to make it work with a PHP or Laravel application, right? For every time you have to deploy this application, you have to follow the specific set. You can automate those steps, but you have to follow those steps, right? You have to manage any extension which PHP are using. So this is one problem. How serverless tried to solve this problem is that it actually manages all your things like Nginx config, PHP version, all those things it will handle by serverless technologies. You don't need to handle that if you are using serverless architecture. Second, it scales with the uses. So let's suppose tomorrow if any celebrity tweets out your website and you have 1 million hits per day, so you need to scale your architecture, traditional architecture, in order to accommodate that level of request. So, and it is very manual process too. You have to horizontally scaling, like you have to increase the RAM or the space it required to do that, right? But if you are using serverless, you don't have to manage about scale. Let's suppose if you tomorrow there is million or billion website on your website, you don't have to worry about the scales. It will automatically scale up, and you don't have to worry about that. You even don't have to check that is it scaling or not. It will automatically scales up, right? And the third most thing is that pay for use. And why this is important? Let's suppose I'm taking Laravel specific example, that if you are running queue worker, and if let's suppose there is no job in a queue for a day, but still you are running queue worker in a traditional approach, you will be paying for that server for 1 day at the end of the day, right? You need to pay for that resources which you have used. If you are using any EC2 instance or any specific server for running the queue workers, you need to pay at the end of the day. But if you are using serverless technologies, you don't need to pay anything unless you use those resources. Like unless you are, for example, it will be only charging you the resources which you use. It won't be charging you for any like, even if you have it is sitting idle, it won't be charging for you. And the main thing is that it offers the 99.999% availability, and fault tolerance is already built in the serverless platform. So to have this type of availability and fault tolerance built in, you need a dedicated DevOps teams. And if you have dedicated DevOps teams to manage those costs, it's very high. But if you are using serverless, you will get these things free of cost. You don't have to pay to anyone, and that cloud provider will handle these things for you. So talking about advantages. So we will now can discuss with the function as a service, which is we will be talking definitely most of the time today. So what is function as a service? So it is basically a serverless for the code. Like we have seen the serverless for the database, serverless for the static storage. And if you want to run a specific service, a specific code, you want a function as a service. So there are many function as a service in a market from different cloud providers. There are different, but in today's example, we will be using AWS Lambda. So from Amazon, there is AWS Lambda. From IBM, there is Apache OpenWhisk. From Microsoft, there is Azure function. And from Google, there is a Google Cloud function. So there are a lot of choices. You can run your serverless code. There are a lot of choices, and few of them are very platform independent. Like Apache OpenWhisk only uses Docker Compose to run your application. So you don't have to worry about the underlying thing. You just need to give them a Docker Compose. So again, we won't be going much detail about the Docker and Docker Compose right now. But if you want to start it with the serverless, my personal recommendation would be AWS Lambda, because AWS Lambda is the most popular serverless platform out there. And if you are stuck at any point of view, if you got any bug, you will find the resources online very much easily. So my basic, and also the AWS Lambda is very reliable compared to the Microsoft and Google. So my basic choice or personal recommendation, you can say, is that start with the AWS Lambda, and after that you can shift to any other cloud serverless provider, right? Okay, and before going further, I need to discuss one thing, that by default AWS Lambda does not provide a PHP runtime. So you must be thinking then how we will be able to run the code. By default it does not support for the PHP, but if I'm not wrong, from November 2018 they have option to run the custom runtimes, right? You can create your language and you can run the code on Lambda. So by using that method, you can run the PHP on AWS Lambda. So we will be talking about that in detail in the next slides. So before starting that, how does it work? Like what things we require to make it work, right? So the way it works is actually really simple. We have to take our code, we have to zip into a file, and then we have to upload into the Lambda function. And after uploading the Lambda function, that's it. You don't have to configure any Nginx and all those things. It will be automatically handled for you. And AWS Lambda will be going to handle all these things like Nginx config and all those things for you, and the scaling, all those things for you automatically. If after uploading the code on Lambda, nothing will run by default. It actually waits for the action or trigger to run your Lambda function, right? It need actually one function or trigger. You can say action or trigger or event. Anything needs to start running the Lambda function. So for example, let's suppose this is the green arrow is the HTTP request, basic web request. When we get the web request from the web, into the Lambda, what Lambda will do, first of all, it will boot up the container. After booting up the container, it will load the index.php or the code which you have provided in the zip file. It will load that code into your container. And after that, it will start processing your request. After processing your request, it will send out the response to the user or client which has sent the request. So it sounds really easy, right? That's it. Like you don't have to worry about the PHP configuration, Nginx, all those things here. You just need to give the PHP code and tell that it is a PHP code. I need to run the PHP code, and it will run or process that code according to you. And after booting up the container, it will keep that container alive for some minutes, so that if next request comes, it won't actually have to boot up the container again. So the next request will handle directly, and it will process that request and give out the response. So in detail, let's suppose if there are many requests coming on my server or Lambda instance or my serverless architecture, how it will be handled, we can show with this example. So let's suppose there is one container which is alive in the Lambda instance. It get request, it will process it, and after processing, it will send out the response. Now let's suppose at the same time the request number 2, 3, 4, and 5 comes at the same time. How the Lambda will handle it? So at the same time, if request 2 comes, it will see that the container is alive and container is free for the resource computation. So it will take the request 2, started processing that request, and after processing the request, at the same time for the third request, while it's processing, for third request, it will see that the container, no container is free right now. So it will boot up the new container from the scratch, and it will started processing that request on the new container. Same for the fourth request and same for the fifth request. You can see that. And after running all and processing code, it will send out the response. And you can see now how Lambda handles the scalability. So let's suppose tomorrow, if you have a million hits on your website, Lambda will start every container, 1 million concurrent request on your website. So what Lambda will be doing? Lambda will be starting 1 lakh container for that, 1 million container for serving those requests. So you can see like it will be starting one server for every request, and you can think of it is like that. It is very scalable solution. So let's suppose tomorrow, if your website gets 1 lakh, it will handle with a breeze. You don't have to worry about the scaling up the things or scaling down the things after again the traffic goes down. So that's the magic of it. I hope you have understood the concept of scalability concept behind the Lambda. So now the main topic, how we can run PHP on Lambda. So running PHP on Lambda, I told you that by default, Lambda does not support PHP, right? To make it run with a PHP, we need to create a custom runtime. We have to build the PHP from the source, and I definitely, if you are building that source, it is a very frustrating job. And then you think that if we have to do those things, this traditional approach is really good. We just need to type sudo apt-get install PHP 7 point whichever version, and it will be installed. But in Lambda, we have to build from the scratch. But that's not the case. Here comes the one package in the picture, which is called Brave. So Brave is a composer-based package which actually handles your all the custom runtimes. It handles your creation logic of your Lambda function. It actually handles your zip file logic and upload it onto the Lambda. It actually handles all the serverless, the pain of serverless technologies you need to use. Like it will try to automate all those things as much as possible. So in the end, you will be having, you just need to specify which version you have to use, and you can start using PHP on Lambda. So this is a really good tool, and now we will be looking into the detailed code. So I will just share my entire screen now. Let me know if you are able to see the screen.
Yes.
Yes. So this is nothing but a really plain application, a Laravel 8 application with a Jetstream install. And if those who don't know what is Laravel Jetstream is, Laravel Jetstream offers you a beautiful starter application kit for your application. So you don't have to worry about the authentication or team management or two-factor authentication. It actually provides all the features built right into you. So if you don't know about the Laravel Jetstream, I think in the same meetup on the September or August, I'm not sure, but Siddharth has given the talk on it about how we can explore the Laravel Jetstream. So right, like this directory is empty, so I will just delete it now. And you can see like entire is a fresh application. I will start running the application. So you can see this is a basic Laravel application, fresh Laravel application with the Jetstream install. And I am using the Inertia means Vue version of Jetstream. I'm not using Livewire version of Jetstream. So this is the basic application which will be trying to deploy it on a serverless platform, which is Lambda. So that's it. And for now, if you are worrying about what is this file, I have just taken the backup of that server configuration file. So if anything goes wrong, we have that backup of that file, so we don't miss out. So that's why I'm just taking the backup. We will not be using anything from that file if all the things goes right. So this is the Brave website. It's really good package. So we will be like, I will be like, from the documentation, I will be showing you how we can convert our non serverless application into serverless, right? So there is a, if you wanted to know more about the Brave and serverless, you can read this documentation. In they have provided all those things in detail. What are the use cases, and if you should migrate your architecture from traditional to serverless architecture, right? But we are now interested in the installation step. So we will go to the installation, and we will follow all those steps. So first, before starting out, the main thing which you required is that AWS account. And to create account, I have already created my account. I have already have my AWS account, so that I have already logged in. So if you need to use that, you need to create one AWS account, and for first year you have the free tier, so you don't have to worry about the things for the application if you are testing out. So do check it out, guys. Like, it's a really cool thing. Free tier is really cool thing. You can try or test your application until the specific limit. So the next is the serverless. So Brave has actually dependency of serverless, which is a NPM package. And what serverless framework is, it's an abstraction on a code formation of AWS. So it's a really advanced topic. So I will be just need some time from you guys to understand. How many of you guys have known about the infrastructure as a code? Have you guys heard the term infrastructure as a code before? No. So have you heard the term Ansible or Terraform or CloudFormation before? If you have heard the name of these tools, you have heard the infrastructure as a code. So have you heard about these tools?
Not me.
Okay. So what actually does it? So infrastructure as code is a service that you provide a config file, and from that config file your infrastructure is built. Like, you just need to specify that I need a 2 EC2 server, I need one S3 bucket and one RDS database. You specify in one configuration file that can be different for different tools. For CloudFormation, it is JSON. For Ansible, it is YAML. You mention that in that specific tool format. So you specify that I require 2 EC2 instance at this time, or this is a basic, like, they try to automate the infrastructure using the code. It's a very high level overview. Again, it's very more of the DevOps concept. So if you are not very familiar with the DevOps, so there is no need to actually knowing all those things about infrastructure as a code. So what serverless framework does is, serverless framework is an NPM library which actually provides the abstraction on that on those tools. So in the end, you have to, if you are using different cloud providers, in the end you have to maintain the different configuration file. If you are using with Ansible for specific or CloudFormation for AWS, you have to maintain those different files. But what serverless is an abstraction. You can think of it as like a ORM for the database. So you just specify in that serverless framework term, and it will translate to that GCP or AWS or specific cloud provider. I hope it's clear, like, what serverless is, and we won't be much talking about serverless in detail because it's very advanced topic. Unless you have to configure very basic things, you don't need to know more about serverless. So
Thank you.
Yeah. So you need to install the serverless library. I have already installed the serverless library. So and you have to install it globally. So you don't actually need to install it in the package context. So I have already installed that library. So after that, you need to create a AWS access keys to access your AWS account from the API or command line, right? So there is a dedicated documentation for that. And if you open that documentation, they have mentioned all the steps to create the keys, but we will be creating the keys for now. The AWS provides one IAM service to manage the access management and identity access management. So IAM is a service provided by the AWS cloud platform to manage these access keys, right? So for now, we will be creating user Laracon Mumbai, and we want to give the programmatic access because we don't want any console access given to that user. You can give that, but for now we don't want to give that. And also we will be giving the administrator access, but if you are deploying it in production, make sure that you only give access to the services which you are using in the production. Like if you are using S3 RDS or EC2 or Lambda, only give the permission of that things. Like if you are giving a Lambda, you can only give the permission for the Lambda. So right now, for the sake of simplicity, I am giving administrator access, and I will be creating the user. So after creating the user, I will be getting one access key and secret access key, and the secret access key will be shown only for first time. And if you want to, if you lose this key, you need to renew the key for the second time. You don't, if you lose this secret access key, there is no way to actually renew this. So make sure you store it somewhere safe. So after that, they have mentioned in the documentation how to set up the keys with the serverless. So you need to connect your serverless client with your AWS account, right? And the way is that I will be copying the key. Yeah, so see, setting up AWS, and it has completed. So what it has done in the background, that it has created in your root folder. I'm currently using the Linux. So if you are using Windows, so whatever your root folder is, go to root folder. There will be one .aws file, a folder, and in that folder, there is a one credential file they have created. And if I open that credential file, you can see that the access key and secret access key are same, which we have mentioned in the. Okay, so that's about it. It has only set up this credential file in the root of your system. So we are closing this out. Now what will be the next step? So after that, you need to install the Composer Brave package. So I will be copying that package over here, and I will be installing that package. So it has been installed, but after that, we need to follow the framework specific installation, because this installation of first steps are for the PHP application, but we are using a specific framework. So there is a dedicated section for Laravel in that Brave package, and we can use that Laravel setup. So the Brave provide Laravel bridge for working with the Laravel, so we don't have to set up any Laravel specific things of our own, and I will be just installing those packages. After that, we need to publish the files, like which is serverless config, and which will create the serverless.yaml file on our root folder. So for now, let's see, there is no serverless.yaml file. And as you can see now, the serverless.yaml file has been created by the package, right? So I will be now explaining what are the terms in the serverless.yaml file. So this is the first, what is a service? So service is defined like what is the name of your service. In our case, it will be, for now, we can Laracon Mumbai. Like it, this file will be used to deploy your application on the AWS Lambda. So serverless, that I explained, that infrastructure as a code, it will actually read this file, and according to that, it will create the Lambda functions or S3 buckets, and for that automatically, right? Currently we need to use the provider AWS, and the region we want to use I guess we want to use the region which our most of the traffic come from our website. So let's suppose from India we have very much traffic, we will be using AP South 1. There is option to deploy this service on a different region and then load balancing according to the user, but we will not go in that detail. We will just trying the things as simple. So
can I interrupt in between?
Yes.
Okay. This, is it necessary like to confirm first that what region are available in AWS? Like, is there no default option like?
Yeah, the default option was US East 1 was default option.
Okay.
Yeah, so US East 1 is for I guess California.
Okay. My question actually is around that there are chances that region might not support Lambda, correct?
Right.
So if it's not supported, then how will know? How do we know that AP South 1 is supported by Lambda?
Yes. So for that you need to search for Google on Lambda, and you can there select that what are the regions actually Lambda supports. There is option to see that. I will just search on Lambda supported regions.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so you will get the region which supported by the Lambda. See?
Okay, understood. So you are sure that Mumbai has support of
Yes.
Lambda? Okay.
Mostly all of the region has support for the Lambda because it's very popular compute tool. So most of all the region has support for Lambda. And also if you want to see that Lambda is specifically available for that or not, you need to open the Lambda service in your AWS console, and you can check that. Like if you can able to see any region in the gray, it will be disabled by default. But as you can see for Lambda, all the regions Lambda is present by default, right?
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So this is the region we have used the Mumbai for now, and the stage of the application. If you want to production or development or staging, we can add over here, and the runtime. So I have already told you that Lambda does not support PHP, right? To make it work with the PHP, we need to provide a custom runtime, and custom runtime we have to build it from the scratch. So to build it on a scratch, we have to use any Linux environment, right? To build it our PHP from the scratch. So we will be using Amazon Linux 2 because they have told that Amazon Linux 2 is really booted very fast on the Lambda's instance. So we cannot use Ubuntu because Ubuntu is very heavy server, right? Amazon Linux 2 is very lightweight server, and it has actually a very good amount of scalability on the Lambda specifically. So we will be using Amazon Linux 2, which is you can say that it is a kernel, same as the Ubuntu. There is Amazon Linux 2. There are packages which we want to exclude on deployed on the Lambda because we don't want to upload our node modules or public storage files or assets or test files to the production environment, right? And after that, the main function comes in that the main things which comes is that functions which we need to expose to the world. First is a web function, and second is the artisan. So what web does is it actually handles your HTTP request, and you can see like on the event of HTTP API, we need to invoke this web function, and the handler of that web function is public.index.php file. So if you know about the Laravel request lifecycle, you know that every request come in the public index.php and then it handled from here. So it actually defines the handler timeout for that and the layer which we want to use. By default, we want to use 7. By default, they provide 7.4, but as we are using Laravel 8, it is supported by PHP 8. We can use the PHP 8 also, and it is using the FPM version of PHP. So I don't know, you must have known about fast CGI or FPM before, but it's actually a PHP type of PHP which actually runs on the server for the faster process, right? And again, whatever your artisan commands or console commands handle on the Lambda, it will be handled by this function which is called artisan, and you can see the handler is artisan. So it will be handling by the artisan function, artisan file on root folder, and timeout for that is 120 seconds. And the PHP, we want to use it for PHP 7.4, 8.0, sorry. And we want to add also console layer, which actually Brave provides us out of the box. So this you can see like the Brave, this actually provides us from the Brave package. So actually it provides us the runtime. After that, we need to add the plugin. Here it is by default there. We don't need to change anything. But now I need to talk about two important points, because 2 days before, serverless released their major version, right? So there are some few deprecated changes there. So, and currently Brave team Brave team is working on that, and Brave team is solving those issues, right? To make it work for now, they have the pull request is in review process, I guess. I think it will be merged by today or tomorrow, and I think it will be released by this weekend only. So there are a few deprecation in this file, and they will be updating very soon. So to just make those deprecation, I will be just copying those deprecation to like a hacky way to handle those deprecation. Yeah, you can see that features to avoid deprecation warning. So there is API gateway, and you should add that should start with the name service true and Lambda hashing version. And this is a hacking solution for now. It will be added by default after the major release of the Laravel Brave package, right? After that, also there is one breaking change in the .env file. So what was happening before that, your .env variables was loading by default in your serverless environment, but due to that major breaking change, it is not the case now. You need to manually specify those environment on your serverless.yml file. Again, this is the way of defining the variables, environment variables in your serverless file. And I'm only giving the variables which it needs to use. So app environment production, app debug true, app key is that specifically, DB connection MySQL, DB host is this. Right now for DB, you can use any publicly accessed database. I have not set up any VPC or specific for that, because it is again very complex things to explain. So I have to keep this talk as simple as possible. So it is a publicly accessed database. You can add any database which is publicly accessed. So that's not the issue. And the main thing which I wanted to know, that if mostly in serverless 3.0, this thing will be handled automatically. So you don't need to worry about .env. You just create .env.production, and the production environment production file will be production variables will be uploaded automatically. So this is like a temporary solution for now. And also we need to define this flag, use .env true. And this is the hacky solution. The pull merge request is in process. So this was not the case before. It was just 2 days before it actually broke entire thing. So to make it work for our system, I need to paste all those things for now.
Okay. Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
So I need to understand two things. One is that changes were done at Lambda level, and that broke the things.
No. Changes has been done on the serverless framework, right? We have used that serverless framework, which is dependency of Brave, right?
Okay. So serverless framework, that npm install -g.
Yes.
serverless.
Yes.
Okay, so that has major change, and Bref is dependent on that. Okay.
Yeah. So also there are deprecation changes on the Brave also. So currently the guys are fixing it right now, and for that, like I have just copied it from the pull request, and it was working. So it might not be the case for the next few days. So I just told you guys, I have just copied it from the pull request, which is in process. So it might not be the case in future.
Thanks for
Right?
that. Thanks for that. You could have cancelled this session. Okay, hold on. One more thing I want clarification. This serverless.yml is being maintained by Bref, right? Bref. The default,
Yes.
the default one which we saw is being maintained by Bref, and whatever modification we have to do,
We can
basically
do
Bref,
that.
Bref is asking us to do that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Okay. So yeah, that's it. Now I will go here. Now comes to the deployment part. But before deployment, as I mentioned, that my application is a Laravel inertia application. So it will require the JavaScript and CSS to load, right? Before JavaScript like if we don't serve the CSS or JavaScript, it won't be working. But what the problem with Lambda is that Lambda is only handles the code part of your system. It won't be handling the static files like CSS or JS or any asset file, right? You need to handle that by a different service, which is S3, right? You must have used S3 definitely. So S3 handles actually the service like static part, serving the CSS or JS, and it's optional. If your application is not using any external file CSS or JS, it's like you can skip this step. It is not it's really optional. So there is one asset uh, section on the documentation, and from that you can like get the how we can make the asset works with the S3. I will go to the website documentation first and show you what architecture we need to follow. So whatever PHP code will be executing will be handling by the AWS API Gateway and Lambda, and whatever our asset are like CSS, JS, or Imagify will be handling by the S3 bucket. So how we can like manage these things? Like we automatically needs to upload these files on assets and then run the PHP. There is way by which you can automate this thing of creating the S3 bucket. So as I mentioned that you just need to mention the S3 bucket, and it will automatically create a S3 bucket for you. It's the example of infrastructure as a code. So AWS S3 bucket, and for now the bucket name should I want to give is Laracon Mumbai assets, right? And the same the bucket name which you are giving, make sure that you first run your production file, compile your production assets, and then sync with that AWS bucket. But before that, using that, you need to specify mix asset URL. So Laravel mix has functionality to use a different domain or different URL for your serving your assets. So to use that, you just need to specify mix asset URL in your file, and you can ready to use the. So just change the bucket, and bucket API should be like the base API of that bucket, Laracon Mumbai asset.s3, our region, and .amazon aws.com. I will be saying this file, and first I need to sync with the bucket, but don't sync with the bucket now. We will sync it after the deployment, and I will need to show that what error they are getting. So after that, we will be following the documentation only. So we will go to the deployment section. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm not able to hear anyone, so I thought that my internet connection was weak. But yeah, now it's good. So we will be following the deployment guide. We actually don't want to deploy the caches to the Lambda, because actually the path system which Lambda follows is very different than the base our Laravel path system. So first we need to clear the config caches. So after config has been cleared, we can now run that command serverless deploy. And for the first time, it will take some time, like 2 to 5 minutes. Between 2 to 5 minutes, it will try to make your application online. So as you can see, like there is 0 buckets now, there is a 0 cloud formation stack, there is a 0 Lambda function, right? You can see that there is a 0 function, and currently it's building the dependency, building that zip file for us, uploading that zip file on the AWS, and adding those function and connecting those zip file with the AWS Lambda. It's doing all those things for us. We don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about all the things which is managing by the serverless thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask few doubts?
Yeah. Yes. Sure.
So you mentioned infrastructure as a service.
Yeah.
So,
as a code.
So when we were manipulating that serverless.yml, are we configuring our infrastructure?
Yes.
Can I
It is
tell?
it is something like a configuring the infrastructure which we want to use for this application. Like
Okay.
you can see the code, that creating the stack. Stack means it will create one global application in your AWS, and in that global application, all your AWS S3 files or S3 buckets will be connected to that application. So in future, if you want to delete that application completely, you just need to delete from one place, and all the places it will be deleted automatically, or you need to update that at one place, and all the places it will be updated automatically. And you can see like stack create finished upload cloud formation file to S3. Then after that, it has zipped our code and uploaded to the S3, and after uploading, it is updating the stack now. So if I refresh the cloud formation stack now, cloud formation is that infrastructure as a code for the AWS.
Okay.
And serverless is managing that cloud formation for us. So I will show you. There is one serverless directory will be created, and cloud formation uses JSON. I told you that JSON to manage your environment. So that entire thing will be generated by the serverless framework. You don't have to manage these huge files, right? You don't have to manage about the permission also, like which permission I need to give for that specific thing. It all will be managed or handled by that serverless.yaml file mostly.
Okay. And because Bref knows that this is Laravel application, it is generating that configuration accordingly. So,
and also it is providing the runtime, because runtime by default Lambda does not support PHP runtime. Bref is giving the serverless that I know how we can create the PHP specific version. Take this, when we define that we want to use the PHP 8.0. Yeah, you can see here we want to use PHP 8.0, and we want to use the Bref version, and it will be getting created from here. So Lambda serverless will know that from Bref I know how we can create the PHP 8.0, and it will automatically create the PHP 8.0, even though Lambda by default does not support PHP.
Okay, one more question. Is it completed? You can continue.
Yes,
continue. I can ask the question in end. Yeah.
Yes. So it's completed, and you can see like it has given us a URL or endpoint for accessing the website, right?
Yep.
Copy link. Yeah. So I need to show you something. So if I run this command, so our application or HTML is getting served properly, but our CSS and JS file is not getting served, right? Because they are serving on Loracon Mumbai Asset S3, Amazon AWS CSS R.CSS. And as you can see that there are two buckets has been created. One bucket is for asset, and one bucket is for storing the code which we upload, zip code, right? So Laravel Mumbai asset has currently don't have any asset, right? We actually didn't tell that which asset we need to install or which asset needs to update. For that, again in asset section, you can find that how you can upload the asset to the S3 bucket or synchronize the public directory with your S3 bucket. So you just need to copy this command and paste that over here and change the bucket name inside that command. And so I missed out the very important point. This is the AWS CLI. So before running that, you need to install the AWS CLI command. So this you can install It's very easy to install on the specific Lambda. It's like running the .exe file. So I will be now just giving it a side. And yeah, it started uploading my public directory, excluding the index.php file, all to the S3 bucket. So if I refresh now, you can see that all my public directory has been uploaded to S3. And if I now, this is my local application, and if I now run this application, you have seen that app.css and app.js is now loading from that bucket. You just need to you must be thinking that every time I need to I compile the asset, I need to change that, but that's not the case. There is concept called CI/CD, and most of the know about that CI/CD. You can add this command on the CD, continuous deployment pipelines. So after running all your tests, if everything goes right, it will first sync your public directory with S3 bucket, and after that it will deploy the application for you. You just need to upload the code and that specific version control, and from that it automatically create the deployment for you. You don't have to manually deploy every time. So that's one case. And if I try to register now, you can see that we are currently working on the AWS Lambda. If I push I'll register, and you can see I have the access of the Jetstream dashboard. So it's that simple. Like you don't have you see that I didn't configure any Nginx or any PHP. Just I told that I need to run this on PHP 8.0. I did not install any PHP also. It's that easy. Also, I need to show a few things to you guys. If you are using and you want overall insight of your application running on the Lambda, there is vendor. You can run this command vendor bin bref dashboard, and you have to specify the stage you want to select, because by default it will take production, but we are using the development staging environment. It will retrieve the stack with the stage development environment. And you can see it has retrieved Laracon Mumbai Dev, which is on the AP South 1 region, and it will now start the dashboard locally. If you want to see your application, how your application performing locally, you can see that. I will go to the our region, which is AP South 1. And you can see we can see our application Laracon Mumbai Dev, and you can see all the things. You can see the logs. You don't need any specific thing to worry about. You can see the logs. You can see the deployment log, how many times we have deployed or what things we are deployed. If you want to specify the secrets in that serverless.yaml file, because it's not a good way to add all those secrets here, because we will be committing the serverless.yaml file, and we need to have this ability to pass these secrets as a dynamically. So there is a detailed documentation on how you can set up the variables or add secrets onto the Lambda platform. It's very easy. Or you can just add over here, like I want to use this database environment, save here, and just by this flag, let's suppose if by this flag you can access that parameter, and you have the access of those variables. So that's it. Again, you can see the databases which has connected with your application, or queues which are running currently in your application, because there are no queues running in the application, or we have not configured any queues. There are S3 buckets which I showed, like Laracon Mumbai asset we have created, which is connected to this application, and we can view the files also. So that's about it. It's a basic overview. And if I again give the request to the AWS Lambda, you can see that there is new request. Yeah, you can see there are 8 invocation for the Lambda for today. After that, also you want to run the artisan command on the AWS Lambda. So there is a dedicated section for Laravel artisan. So this command you need to follow. This is the command vendor bin bref CLI, and after that you need to specify the function for that artisan. Right? Currently we have 2 functions: one to handle the PHP web or API, and one to handle the command interface, because both have different structure and both have different invocations. So we will be copying. Paste. By default, this command uses the region US East 1. So we have to specify the region, which is AP South 1. And after that, I want to add this command. So you can see this is currently running onto the Lambda. You can see the Laravel framework is 8.3.40, 8.340, 8.34. And if I'm not wrong, you can see the same Laravel version is running with a PHP 8.0.3. So, and if I refresh that, there might be a invocation for artisan command. It's actually not a real time, but if you see the logs, yeah, you can see that Laravel Laracon Mumbai dev artisan has been invoked, and you can see what output has been pushed to that. So if you want to run the migrate command or any specific command, let's run inspire. Yeah, you will see the code. It's not actually the real time. It needs time to get the logs. So that's about it.
Thanks,
Also,
Pushpa. Yep. Go ahead. Do you have anything else?
yes, I have few things to discuss. Right. Just let me stop presenting the screen. Yeah, so what are the base use cases for the serverless? If you are thinking of trying out the serverless, what are the best use cases for the serverless are? If you are a small startup, if you are digital agencies, or you have a medium to large levels, large scale application. So for this, the main thing is that managing the servers, saving out the cost of running the server or handling the scale, because small startup can get scale at any time and they want to scale fast. Right, so you should think of serverless if you are trying out the new application. Also, if you are the digital agency which are managing the server for the clients, it is very hectic to manage the client, a different server for different clients. So you can think of using serverless for those clients. The main use cases for serverless are heavy job processing. If you have, like, for example, let's suppose if you have a newsletter service which will be sending 1 lakh email per day, and there are 1 lakh jobs running in the background to send those emails. So if you have this type of use case, you should go for the serverless, because it actually scales automatically. And for next day, if you have no emails to send, it won't be charging you. So that's also a very good use case if you have very heavy queue job processing. Next is a backend API. If you are having mobile API or only API, you should use the Lambda, because you don't have to again configure the S3 bucket for the asset and all those things. The second main important thing is event-based architecture. So if you have an event-based architecture, so let's suppose if you need to run code specific on specific event, you can configure that using serverless, because at the end, if I'm not wrong, you can add as many trigger as want. So if you want to add specific trigger, you can add this much trigger word. If you want to run our function, if we add any file to the S3 bucket, you can configure that also. So if you have this type of use case, consider the serverless. And the best use case for the serverless is that microservice architecture. it actually decouples your code and it actually takes out the pain to deploy those services differently, right? So we have discussed the use cases. What are the what are the cases when we should not use the serverless? So there are mainly 2 to 3 use cases when we should not use the serverless. The first is that if you are changing or writing the files in your directory, like in your local directory or application, changing or writing the files in application, you should not use the serverless, because serverless is by default read-only file structure, so it won't support that. The second use case is that if you have the huge code bases more than 250 MB, you should not be using AWS serverless, because AWS supports only 250 MB of 250 MB of zip code. So if you have code, if your code is more than 250 MB, you shouldn't be using serverless. And the main use case is that if you have dedicated DevOps teams, so there is no need of using serverless. They can handle that thing, because if you try to shift your architecture to serverless, they will be sitting idle. So that's actually not good for the business. So we have discussed about the Brave now, but there is a better alternative to Brave for Laravel, because Laravel specifically, Brave is a general PHP application. You can deploy Symfony or Laravel or any PHP or PHP framework using Brave. But there is a better alternative called Laravel Vapor, and most of you must have known about Laravel Vapor, because Laravel Vapor is a first-party package provided by the Laravel to host the Laravel on the Lambda, right? And it's believe me, I have used this package, and this is the really good package. You don't have to configure anything like the things which we have configured, right? You just need to sign in, just upload your code, or just upload give your GitHub repository, and it will automatically handle all those things for you. We don't even need to manage the serverless.yaml file unless it's very necessary. There is a vapor.yaml file for that Laravel Vapor, but we don't need to manage that until it's very specific or very necessary. So do check it out, guys. Like if you are planning to go for the production, definitely use Laravel Vapor. And if you want to try the things out, because Laravel Brave is a free package and Laravel Vapor has a membership cost of like $99 per month, something. I'm not $39 for month. I'm not sure exact cost, but it is a paid application. So do check it out. Do check it out if you are thinking of moving to the production with the serverless architecture. These are the resources which will help you if you want to get along with the serverless. And we are at the end. We want to give away. So I have one question. So Jigar, is it possible, or should I ask question after the questions?
First, let's take Q&A, right?
Yeah. So
Darshan, you had a question.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, Jigar, I had a same question that actually Pushpak already answered. Like, in which case we should not go for this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that persistent, if we want to persist the data on the server, that same server, we shouldn't go.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, there are alternatives to that. Like let's say upload functionality should basically upload the file to S3 or something like that.
Yes. So
But
you need
not-
to, you need to change that behavior of code. You need to change the files to S3 to make that application work with, right? So if you specifically want to store all those files on your server, you are not able to do that in the serverless platform. So that's about it. If you guys have any questions like about pricing and all those things, I have mentioned all the resources in that slide, and I will be sharing on the WhatsApp group also and the Twitter group also. So you guys can have the look at it into the later, because the pricing which AWS Lambda follow is very complicated. It's not very easy to explain and also understand. There is one dedicated video which Nuno has made, Nuno Madudro. So I have added the link for that video, and you can go through that link.
Sure. I have a few questions actually.
Yeah, Jigar, go ahead.
So in this instance so I come from a traditional server background. The serverless is completely new. So how do we handle jobs queues that you said? Will it be handled by default, meaning if I just simply
Run the queue
run
worker,
the
right?
queue, if I just dispatch a job, will that appear in that dashboard, Bref dashboard automatically, or do we need to do something over there?
Yeah, we need to configure that, and I will.
Okay.
I hope my screen is shared. Let me share my entire screen.
Your screen is shared, but it's okay if it's going to take time. We need to
It
know.
will take 2 minutes.
Okay.
So in Laravel, there is a Laravel queues section specifically for Laravel queues, and they have dedicated Brief package, which is Laravel Brief. And if you go to that package, there is an entire documentation how you can run the Laravel queues with SQS and on the Lambda, because SQS is like AWS Lambda is different. To run your queues, you need to actually have one event generated for every queues you are adding into the queues, right? And in traditional queue, if like you are using database driver or Redis driver, it's not possible to generate that event to run the queue worker, right? But if you are using Laravel SQS, simple queue service of Amazon, it's a like first party package support with queue, so you don't have to change anything. You just need to add these things into your serverless.yaml file, and what actually it will do is that it will, every time you add anything to the queue, it will create one event, right? As I have think you can add trigger, right? So I will show you. There is a trigger for the queues also. Yeah, you can see there is trigger for queues also. You will select the queues. You need to select the number of batch size you want to pass that specific worker, batch window, and enable trigger. Like if any specific job has been added to that queue, it will add that trigger, and that worker.php will handle that for you. So you don't have to actually, if you are working with Brave, you have to manually configure all those things. But if you are working with Laravel Vapor, you actually don't have to manage all of things. Like you don't need to manage those things. It will automatically handle for you.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't need to run the PHP artisan queue work command over here, because even if you run that queue work command, it will be stop after all the queue has been run. Like let's suppose there are 4 queues right now. If you run that command, 4 jobs will be running, and after running all 4 jobs, that will be destroyed. That container will be destroyed. So there is this is the workaround to use the queues with AWS serverless.
Okay. And I have one more question. So it might not be relevant to this topic, but the web server piece. Now I come from a traditional background, so when it's hitting the Lambda, that index.php, I want to understand what's happening behind the scene. If you know, can you share whatever you know? It's okay if it's
Yeah.
incomplete. So I assume, like my assumption is that a server in that zip, when we push that our code base, so the runtime which we are generating, which has Bref has created a runtime for us. Basically, it has some Nginx or Apache or some lightweight HTTPD, which they have already configured in that runtime,
Yes.
and so which is packed along with the zip. So we really don't have to care about that.
Right.
So lightweight HTTP, because scaling is happening at Laravel, and we really don't care about how scalable that HTTP server itself is. It simply needs to accept only one request or 2 requests at a time.
Yes, because it actually needs to handle the 2 to 4 requests in that specific container time period. And if even if you have the million requests per second, it will be creating million server for that. So million services or million workers for million containers for that. So you don't have to worry about what exactly will be happening over there.
Yeah, just for the sake of understanding, like there should be at least some server, like it might be equivalent to even PHP artisan that serve.
Yeah, it's actually uses FPM. I'm not sure you have heard of Fast CGI, PHP Fast CGI server, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah, yep, okay.
So for running it uses for PHP Fast API.
So
And in our
FPM is still not a front end. Malab, it still needs a HTTP layer. FPM will just parse the PHP language, but it can't act as a web server. So for that, entry point is required.
So entry point is provided by the API gateway. So I have mentioned, like, if you are able to see in the screen, for that web function, we want that event to be HTTP API, right?
Okay.
And there, Laravel does by default provide us the API gateway. So we actually don't need to consider that which Nginx or which scalable server it actually used. It is provided for us that this is the API endpoint, and you can use it, which will actually handle the API HTTP request, not the PHP request, right? You can see that API gateway. If I go to the API gateway, you can see like dev Laracon.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can see that invoke URL has been given. So actually, protocol is HTTP. Also, they have provided the HTTPS protocol. But you can think is like they are using their in-house HTTP scalable, fast scalable server. We don't need to care about that. They might be using Nginx, Apache, or anything. They have just given the HTTP as a service. We are talking about database as a service, storage as a service. They have given the API or HTTP as a service. So API gateway is handling all that thing for us.
Makes sense. Thanks a lot. This answers a lot of questions, lot of my questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and how the traditional application handles that, you actually have Nginx running for the HTTP, and if any request comes for that Nginx, you have defined that it needs to go for the public index.php to handle, and now the PHP or Laravel will handle that, and after handling, it will give the response to the Nginx again, and Nginx pass that response to the client again. So for, let's suppose there are 1 million requests at the time, it will be not passing the concurrently, only the threads which are present in the server. So let's suppose Nginx is a multi-threaded server, so there are 8 threaded. Let's suppose 8-threaded machine is you are using, or 8-threaded server you are using. So it at a time it will only process 8 requests. It will not process the 1 million requests per second. So you see how scale works in the serverless. Yeah.
So can I say that .ht access is not required basically? .ht access. Yeah.
.ht access or anything which handles the configuration is not required at all.
Okay. Thanks. This answers a lot of my questions, and yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
This is very good. So most of the PHP developers come from a traditional background. So this is quite exciting. Thanks for this. Yeah.
And also, I will suggest you guys to go through the case studies. Like Brave has also given the case studies to help you make decision. Like, is it good for you to choose the serverless platform? So it's there on documentation website, and they have mentioned the different case studies before learning the serverless and after running the serverless. What cost they have saved, what API response time they have added. So if you needed any benchmarks or to show your colleagues or anything, you can use that.
I have a dedicated DevOps, so obviously I won't be using at the enterprise level, at least my company level.
Yes, but again, if DevOps also has one limitation, because at that time, let's suppose if you have a billion requests per day, you won't be handling using the DevOps team, right? You need a dedicated DevOps team, like 50 to 20 members of the monitoring continuously. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
So like I think we can go away with a giveaway, right?
Yep, you can start. We can start. It's already late.
Yes.
Thanks for staying with my darshan. Yep. The rest everyone has left actually. Ankit and
Okay, no issues. So I will be giving up the mastering PHP Storm course. It's a very new courses and recently launched on the Laracon by Christoph. If you know the Christoph, he's my friend, so he has given me the free course to try out. So
am I eligible to win?
Yeah, sure. Like if you answer first, you are eligible to win. for sure.
Sure. Darshan, I don't know the question. Is it okay if we compete? Because
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree that Jigar don't know about the question. So I will be throwing the question that if you can, from the documentation website, you can search that how many PHP runtimes does Brave follows. Like it is mentioned in the documentation. You can check the documentation. How many Brave supports, like how many PHP versions or how many runtimes actually Brave supports.
only PHP specific?
Only Brave only supports PHP specific. So only or whatever runtimes Brave support, you can answer that question. And I just want that number, not the all the runtimes which actually support. I only want the number it supports. So you can check out the documentation of Brave and you can find out that answer over there.
Okay. ये तो काम पे लगा लिया ये तो रीजन स्पेसिफिक है
It's not actually.
7
Right.
ये
So yeah, congratulations, Jigar. You have won the course. I will be sharing the course with you.
sorry Darshan.
Hey,
Yeah.
come on, let's have one more question.
Actually, I don't have the questions right now. I'm out of the questions. So even if you want, Darshan, I have one also course. So if you want, I will be sharing the course with you. So don't worry, you just
It's
share the
okay.
credentials.
It's okay. Share it with Darshan.
Hey, no, that's okay. That's fine. Completely fine, Jigar.
Or yeah, if you wanted to see that course, just ping me at any time on the Twitter. And if you guys have any question about serverless architecture, just ping me on Twitter. I will be very happy to help you guys.
Sure.
Thanks for staying, Darshan. Are you part of that WhatsApp group?
No, I'm not on the WhatsApp group actually.
I will add you. Do you want to be? You will have to share your number.
Yes. Should I share it in the chat?
No. DM. Can you DM on the Twitter?
Yeah, sure. Hold
Or
on.
have you? Did you do that already? And I have not. Vismay, even if you want to be part, you are Pushpak's friend. Obviously, you can join in any time.
Yeah, and so I hope you guys have learned today something
A
informative.
lot. Thanks a lot, Pushpak. Really. Yeah, seriously, I only knew what serverless is, and I did not knew much about it. So let me just stop the recording because it will increase in size.